Welcome to our channel. Today, we will delve into the hidden corners that few dare to look into, the untold stories of major cities, and one of the most heartbreaking stories of all, the lives of the homeless in Los Angeles. Los Angeles, the city of dreams, stars, skyscrapers, and bright lights. But behind all the glamour, there lies a dark reality that few want to face. Over 66,000 homeless people live on the streets of Los Angeles in 2025. This number is not just an abstract figure, it represents real lives, real stories, and people forgotten by this societal system. You can hardly imagine that amidst the luxurious skyscrapers and opulent mansions, there are areas like Skid Row and Venice Beach, places with no light of wealth, only tarps and makeshift tents rising up in the darkness. These streets are full of dust, overflowing garbage bins, where people fight for scraps of food and space to sleep. While the world around them continues to rush forward, living in luxury, these homeless individuals struggle just to survive, yearning only for a roof over their heads and a full meal. The disparity in society between those who have everything and those who have nothing is a harsh reality. Lavish homes next to street huts. The blinding lights of downtown reflect on the forgotten areas, places where darkness never fades. Together, we will explore why this situation continues to worsen. Why, in a city seen as a symbol of success, is there an uncontrollable homeless crisis? This is not just a problem for one city, but a global issue, reflecting the injustice of modern society. Join us as we explore the difficult lives of the homeless here and discover how we can help them, how we can change this reality. Stay with us as we dive deeper into the lives of Los Angeles' homeless and what's happening right under our noses. Number 1. The rising wave of homelessness amidst the bright lights of Los Angeles, where the city lights sparkle like jewels against the night sky. There are dark streets where dreams never visit. Skid Row, Venice Beach, South LA, Hollywood. These areas, once famous for their vibrancy and glamour, are now home to over 66,000 homeless people without a roof over their heads at the beginning of 2025. These numbers are not just numbers. They represent lives. Faces marked by hardship, hands roughened by rain and sun, eyes accustomed to the darkness. While Los Angeles is known as the city of dreams, these dreams never come to them, the homeless, the weary souls wandering the sidewalks. Skid Row, where makeshift tents become homes, where people living in darkness have no choice but to keep fighting against fate. Venice Beach, where the waves crash not only onto the shore but also onto these suffering souls, a place where tourists pass by with curious gazes while the homeless can only sit and look at the sea, unable to touch their dreams. South LA and Hollywood, where towering skyscrapers rise into the air, while beneath them are walls of tents where families and young children face hidden dangers every night. So, what is the cause of this rise? Why, in such a wealthy city, are these people unable to find their place? The cost of housing in Los Angeles has skyrocketed like an endlessly inflating balloon, while wages remain stagnant. Those working part-time jobs, those with minimum wages, they no longer have the means to make ends meet. Affordable housing projects have failed to keep up with demand, and the cost of living, of having a home, has become unaffordable for thousands of people. This is not a random accident. It is the result of injustice in society, where those who have the least bear the heaviest burdens. The homeless stand before an insurmountable wall that they cannot cross, and while the world around them continues to rush forward, these individuals can only trudge along, step by step, on a path that has no end in sight. Number 2. Stories from the streets. The numbers cannot tell all the stories behind them. Homeless people are not blurry images on the sidelines of society, but real human beings who live, breathe, and dream, just like any of us. Maria, a 32-year-old single mother, was once the epitome of a happy family in Hollywood. She used to live in a cozy apartment with her 2 young children, where their laughter filled the air every evening. And everything changed when the rent kept rising, and one night, her family was evicted from their beloved home. With no other option, Maria had to take her 2 children and live in a makeshift tent on the sidewalk. Hollywood, a place where every dream is said to come true, became the place that stole her hope. Amidst the luxury villas and the bright lights of the boulevard, Maria could only hold her 2 children close, seeking comfort in sleeping bags, while the lavish city around her never once turned back to look. And then there's Jamal, a 19-year-old with dreams yet to blossom. He left his foster home with $200 in his pocket, believing that a good job was all he needed to change his life. But he never imagined that every door would be shut in his face. South LA, the place where he was born, became a maze with no way out. Jamal wandered from one park to another, hoping to find a job, but all he found were dark alleys, dim lights, and people like him trapped, exhausted, and hopeless. The path ahead of him was nothing but darkness, and on those long nights, he didn't know what he was running from, but he certainly didn't know where he was going either. The stories of Maria and Jamal are the stories of thousands of others in Los Angeles, people we never see on the dazzling billboards or in the blockbuster movies. They live in invisibility, struggling every day in the cold of a city they cannot call home. They dream of simple things that we take for granted: a roof over their heads, a full meal, a bright future. But amidst Los Angeles, the city of lights and glamour, they are left with nothing but the darkest shadows and a never-ending fight. Number 3. The housing crisis. Life in Los Angeles seems like an unending race. While the streets are lit up with bright lights and skyscrapers stand tall against the sky, below that, there lies a harsh reality that no one wants to admit. Rents are skyrocketing, and they are making life harder for low-income workers. In South LA, Venice Beach, Hollywood, the city's famous areas, a small apartment, a cozy home is no longer a dream, but a distant wish, as rent prices have exceeded what working-class people can afford. Luxurious buildings keep popping up, but at the same time, many people are being pushed out of the places they've called home. With low income, part-time jobs, or minimum wage work, it's impossible to make a living in this city. How can a sales assistant, a restaurant server, or a construction worker afford to rent an apartment in downtown Los Angeles, where even a small room can cost as much as a whole month's salary? What are these workers supposed to do when rents continue to climb while their wages stay stagnant? This feeling of helplessness is not just a material pain, but a psychological shock, as they realize that no matter how hard they try, the dream of a warm home is always out of reach. Meanwhile, affordable housing, what people are desperately craving, is in short supply, especially in central areas like downtown LA. Affordable housing projects have been rolled out, but they are mere drops in the ocean. Affordable apartments, when available, are far too few to meet the needs of the thousands of people who need a safe home. This creates a vicious cycle. Low-income people are pushed out of central areas, forced to move farther away, to live in worse conditions, and end up homeless again. Everything is getting worse, and each passing day is a tough battle for survival for the poor people here. As a developed city, Los Angeles is facing a crisis that cannot be ignored. The price of this development is the people left behind, unable to keep up with the city's growth rate. And while the city continues to rise, thousands of souls are left in the dark. Number 4. Overwhelmed support systems. Beneath the glossy image of Los Angeles, a quiet crisis is smoldering. In areas like Skid Row, considered the heart of the homeless issue, temporary shelters have become overcrowded and stifling. Tarps and tents stretched under the dark sky are not homes, but signs of despair. Relief organizations, the only lifelines that homeless people can rely on, are struggling to keep up. Shelters seem to be overwhelmed, with hundreds of new people arriving each night. Makeshift beds, tiny rooms, and long lines of exhausted faces reflect the disparity between hope and disappointment. The cold of winter, the scorching heat of summer, nothing can stop the constant movement of those searching for shelter. But the scene is not just about physical hardship. When you look at the people sitting there, those pushed out of the bright corners of life, where the lights always shine, you will see that their pain is not just material. It is the lack of care, of love, of empathy. Relief organizations, from small nonprofits to large government aid, are facing an emergency they cannot fully address. Mats, free meals, warm jackets, none of these can ease the suffering of thousands of homeless people every day. The resources of charitable organizations and the government are running dry. The budget for homeless relief is limited, and despite the continuous efforts, they can only help a small portion of the many who need assistance. The calls for help from organizations never stop. The size of volunteers become a regular rhythm in each journey of aid. The support system cannot meet the growing demand. Some places have had to turn people away, leaving behind only emptiness and a terrifying silence. The image of those quietly sitting and waiting, their eyes no longer finding hope in relief organizations, is also the image of a city that has forgotten its own system. While Los Angeles continues to build skyscrapers and luxury apartments, a class of people in the shadows still struggles to find life in the very city. The overcrowding, the lack of resources, is not just an issue for charitable organizations. It is everyone's problem. These homeless souls need more than a roof over their heads. They need care. They need a change from the community they live in. Number 5. The price of survival. The price of survival in Los Angeles is not made up of cold, hard numbers. It is paid with sacrifices, with choices that are never easy. While the city lives in the glow of development, homeless people are struggling to survive day by day, and sometimes that survival costs more than they could ever imagine. The support system of charities and the government is woefully inadequate. Temporary shelters, free meals, sometimes these are the only lifelines, but to get them, many must sacrifice their own safety. They have no other choice but to accept the risks. A safe night in a shelter sometimes means sharing a space with strangers in cramped, filthy conditions. A warm meal is sometimes the price to pay for freedom, as everyone knows that the place to stay is nothing more than temporary and insecure. These people have no right to choose. If they want to eat, they must accept the risks. If they want a good night's sleep, they must get used to the presence of predators, those seeking opportunities in the dark. Areas like Skid Row, where the city's light never shines, are places where safety becomes a luxury. The darkness, there is not only the shadow of tall buildings, but the shadow of exploitation and danger. And amid all these dangers, there is another harsh truth. Los Angeles is also one of the areas with the highest rates of human trafficking. Homeless people, those without shelter, are ideal targets for traffickers. Those without compassion focus solely on exploitation and possession. The only chance they have to survive, to find safety, becomes a trap for the wrongdoers, as they have no choices and no one to protect them. The truth is, every day that passes, homeless people in Los Angeles face dangers, not only from the outside but also from the deprivation they endure. This is not just a regular survival battle. It is the fight of forgotten souls, of people abandoned by society, and the price they pay for survival is too steep for a mere ticket to live. Number 6. The lack of community trust. Homelessness is not just the suffering of those without homes, but also the anxiety and insecurity that the entire community must bear. In areas like South LA and Venice Beach, where the streets never sleep, the sense of unease seems to have become an inseparable part of daily life. The homeless, already familiar with being shunned, unintentionally become a source of fear for those living around them. Walking through these streets, locals can feel the tension in the air, the worry in the glances around them. The quiet steps of the homeless, the shadows hidden in the dark corners of the streets, are images that many in the area cannot ignore. Homelessness brings with it another issue: the rise in crime rates. While not all homeless individuals engage in criminal behavior, the deprivation of all basic needs creates an environment ripe for exploitation. The need to survive sometimes forces the destitute to make wrong decisions, and those decisions can lead to criminal acts they never thought possible. Noises in the middle of the night, arguments, scuffles, all become part of daily life, unavoidable in a community where tension constantly simmers. And for those living in these areas, things never seem to settle into peace. Despite the tireless efforts of charitable organizations and volunteers working day and night to provide assistance, from meals to healthcare services, the tension within the community remains undeniable. People living in South LA and Venice Beach feel as if they are stuck between two worlds. On one side, there is the effort of organizations trying to help. On the other, there is the presence of a social crisis that they cannot control. While they know not everyone poses a threat, the anxiety about safety always lingers, like a shadow hanging over their daily lives. The community here cannot find peace, because trust has been tested too many times. Organizations work hard, but a lack of financial resources and support means they cannot change the situation quickly. The people still feel they live in a world where their safety is always under threat, and while help continues, the feeling of insecurity and lack of trust in a brighter future remains an inevitable part of life in Los Angeles. Number 7. Efforts from the community. Despite facing an ever-growing homelessness crisis, small lights from nonprofit organizations and volunteer groups continue to follow the steps of the homeless in Los Angeles. In areas like Venice Beach, downtown LA, and Hollywood, where the darkness of homelessness still looms, the tireless efforts of volunteers are making small but incredibly meaningful changes. These are the quiet people walking through the streets, carrying hope and help to lost souls. Nonprofit organizations are constantly providing hot meals, bowls of soup, and loaves of bread, meals that are not just nourishment but also comfort, a hope that not everything has been forgotten. These meals are a testament to the spirit of sharing, to humanity in a city full of division. But that's not all. These organizations also offer basic healthcare services, from medication to routine checkups. This is especially crucial as the homeless often face serious health issues but cannot access medical services. Volunteer doctors and nurses from nonprofits, while unable to heal all wounds, can at least offer some peace of mind and care for those who need it most. In addition, vocational training and reintegration programs from charitable organizations have created new sparks of hope. Vocational courses and skill-building workshops give homeless individuals not just the chance to learn, but also the opportunity to find work and rebuild their lives. These efforts are not just temporary assistance, but bridges helping the homeless return to society, rebuilding their lives with their own hands. These programs, while not solving every problem immediately, at least offer a direction, a belief in a better future. Number 8. Long-term solutions. Addressing homelessness in Los Angeles, one of the wealthiest and most developed cities in the world, cannot be done with temporary solutions. It requires a broad and sustainable approach. To make real change, housing policies need to be immediately altered to ensure that the homeless no longer have to live in appalling conditions on cold sidewalks or in overcrowded slums. One urgent requirement is the construction of affordable housing. Los Angeles, despite being a city filled with gleaming skyscrapers and luxury areas, lacks sufficient affordable housing projects for low-income individuals. The government must prioritize the development of affordable housing projects, not only to provide a safe home for the homeless, but also to help them restart their lives. In this way, the poor can find stable and safe housing and start looking for jobs, learning new skills, or taking care of their families with greater ease. However, building affordable housing is not just about providing shelter, it is an investment in the future of the entire city. It creates opportunities for people, helps reduce social inequality, and restores faith in a fair society. In addition to building housing, the government needs to increase financial support for low-income individuals, providing housing subsidies or low-interest loans to help them rent or purchase homes. Every person, no matter how poor, deserves to live in a safe space and not worry about being evicted simply because rent prices have skyrocketed. But to address homelessness comprehensively, collaboration between the government and the community is essential. The government, community organizations, and volunteers must work together to build sustainable solutions to this issue. The government needs to listen to the voices of nonprofits, those directly working with the homeless, to develop appropriate policies that not only offer short-term help but also create long-term opportunities for those struggling. Community organizations and volunteers, with support from the government, can provide vocational training programs, psychological counseling, and job opportunities for the homeless, helping them reintegrate into society. All these solutions require a shift in mindset and action. Homelessness is not just a problem for the poorest in society, it is a problem for the entire community. We, those who are privileged, have a responsibility to take this issue seriously and seek sustainable solutions. Only when we act together will a future without homelessness, without insecurity, become a reality. The homelessness crisis in Los Angeles is not something that will disappear on its own. It needs the collective effort and engagement of all of us. We cannot simply wait for change to come from the top down. Each individual, each organization can make a contribution. We can start with small actions, such as supporting charitable organizations, providing food, clothes, or simply showing care and empathy to those struggling outside. What's important is recognizing the significance of empathy. Every homeless person is not just a statistic, they are individuals with families, pasts, and futures that can be changed if we act together. Thank you to the volunteers and organizations that tirelessly work for the community, helping the homeless with meaningful and compassionate actions. These efforts are beams of light in the darkness, hope for those who have never been treated with the respect they deserve. Let's work together to change Los Angeles so that no one has to live in the dark and no one is forgotten. If you believe these stories need to be shared and real action can change the world, don't forget to click like and subscribe so you won't miss future videos. Let's make a difference together, because every action matters.